Joining me on the show, Dr. Bryce Edwards, the director at the Integrity Institute. So, firstly, welcome to the show.
Maureen, die.
Yeah, so much to talk about today. And honestly, if we were to look at the depth and breadth of what's been going on in terms of New Zealand politics, we could pick any number of things. But something that really is coming up and perhaps people haven't really taken much notice of, but maybe they want to, local body elections. Now, voting closes tomorrow on this one.
Yeah, and so the voting's been open for a few weeks, and we do this mostly by postal voting in New Zealand for local government elections, although there are normally bins that you can go and put your ballot papers in, and whether you're in Auckland or wherever you are in the country. But it's always been a lot lower than election turnout for general elections. People are just less kind of passionate or interested in their local council and what's seen as just rates and rubbish and potholes. So it's natural that there's fewer people turning out, but the numbers have been declining over the last 20 years. And so I think in 2022, our last time we did this, I think it was about 43% of eligible voters across the country actually bothered to vote. And there's a lot of talk about this year going even further down because I think there's a sense that councils, mayors aren't kind of as important as, and they're not really engaging the public in the way that they used to.
So let's talk about that, engaging the public like they used to. So what are our councillors and our mayors failing to do so that perhaps we do feel a little bit of excitement, or at least some sense that actually this is very important, I need to do this?
Yeah, well, it's strange because there's some big issues in local government at the moment that aren't exactly business as usual. They're mostly around rates because rates have been going up throughout the country quite steeply in the last few years.
Oh, yeah.
And partly it's about inflation, but it's all sorts of issues with infrastructure, water, transport, some of the big spends that councils are having to do. And so that gets quite controversial. And, in a cost of living crisis, it's a big deal for a lot of residents being able to afford their rates. But there's also lots of issues around, I don't know, things like cultural politics. So co-governance has been a big one, and having Māori wards, and how in some ways councils are modernising and kind of taking what they would say is their treaty obligations seriously. And so that's causing a lot of kind of culture wars, if you like. And so, yeah, lots of different perspectives on that. So there are some of those big debates going on, but mostly the people that are standing for council, that are standing for the mayoralty, aren't kind of being that colourful on those issues. They're mostly quite sort of centrist and sort of not really having any big answers to those things. So if you look at in Auckland, of course, the super city, the incumbent, Wayne Brown, he's kind of standing on his record, and he's saying, if you like what you've seen over the last 3 years, vote again for me. But he's not really putting forward much else in terms of vision or promises. And I think I saw one local commentator up there saying his campaign is essentially him pretending to be dead, but he's not really even, he's not very lively. So, and he hasn't really got any strong opponents in this round. So it's kind of turning Auckland voters off, I think, because they just don't really care because there's not much to vote for or against.
Yeah, given that local government and the things that they do actually affect us perhaps more in our day-to-day living, you know, being able to turn on a tap and water flowing and getting on a bus to get from A to B, how do we reignite people to realise actually this stuff is really important for how I'm going to enjoy my day? Because if those things aren't working, life is a whole lot harder.
That's a great question, and it's not one that there's any consensus on. And so every time we have these local government elections, there's some debates about how can we make it easier for people to vote, or how
Mm,
can we make it more exciting? And there's talk about moving it online, or lots of often gimmicks and things to encourage young people, etc. And it doesn't really resonate with me, at least. I mean, when we brought in postal voting maybe 20 or 30 years ago, that was supposed to improve voter turnout. It didn't really work. I don't think there's any kind of easy answers to this. In the end, in my view, it's up to the politicians, the candidates, to impress us and to mobilise us and get us out. I'm actually, I also have one sort of controversial view on this.
okay,
I
let's
actually
hear
think
it.
we need political parties to be more involved in
Okay.
local government. And it's not because I love political parties as such, but I think sometimes it's a bit fake how we have a lot of candidates that are independent, and it means that we don't really know what they stand for. And so, what does Wayne Brown stand for? We get some sort of idea. He's being challenged at the moment by, I think it's Kieran Leone. It's hard to really know exactly what she stands for without reading her manifesto, etc. And so, whereas if someone's waving the flag for the Green Party or for ACT or New Zealand First, you've got a bit of a sense what they stand for.
Mm.
And I think we need a bit more of that. And it would probably mobilize more people if they think, oh, I don't want that Green Party person representing my city, or I don't want that ACT or National Party person in on the council. So that's my view. But yeah, I know it's not there's no simple answers to it.
Yeah, I was talking to you earlier off air, Bryce, about the fact that, I'm all for voting. Think it's a great idea. Did it over the last weekend. And it was an interesting one because it's not that I think going online is any easier. In fact, it annoys me often because sometimes I'm like, oh, this isn't as easy as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
But there was still a part of me that thought, I'm a busy person. I don't
yeah.
know if I can be bothered going to the post office. I did. And I thought, get over yourself. It really isn't that difficult. But I do wonder if there's that sort of malaise out there, just culturally, things maybe, we expect things to be really easy, don't we?
Yeah, and I think they should be. So I don't
Okay.
really blame anyone that is too
Yeah.
busy to vote. Yeah, people do have busy lives, and we
Mm.
should be trying to make it as easy as possible. But I mean, I suspect I wouldn't say reluctance to vote, but you didn't put a huge priority on it, which is quite common, I think,
Mm.
is it's probably because you didn't really see, at least with the mayoral vote, that your vote will matter because it's not going to be a close race, frankly.
Mm.
Wayne Brown is going to be returned quite easily. And that's the case in a lot of the other races around the country, that they're
Okay.
not really going to be close. Probably Christchurch is the most closest contest. So we've got the incumbent mayor there, Phil Mega. He's up against, and he's kind of coming more from the conservative side, more the right side, status quo. And he's got a councillor standing against him, Sarah Templeton, and she's more coming from the greeny, more lefty side of things, and it could be quite a close race, and hence turnout is actually looking quite good in Christchurch at the moment, not
Mm.
too bad. Um, and so people feel, oh well, my vote actually might count
Right.
in changing who's the mayor or keeping the mayor there. But likewise, yeah, most of the country, I think, turnout's going to be down, so that will be quite interesting to watch tomorrow.
Yeah. Hey, we still have a day to vote, right? So, how would you sort of encourage people to get out there and vote? They'll need to put it in their postal boxes, or not postal boxes, but the ballot boxes now, which you
Yeah,
can
you'd need
find
to go
online.
into your council essentially
Mm.
now, I think, to be certain of your vote counting, and yeah, there's lots of different ways to work out who to vote, how to vote, and I don't think I can really give much sort of advice on that. But people will be happy with the status quo, and they might want to vote for incumbents, or they might want to, try and shake things up and look for someone else on the ballot paper that they think is going to change things. That's probably the
Yeah.
best way to think about it.
Bryce, it is always a pleasure to speak with you. Speaking with Bryce Edwards, Dr. Bryce Edwards from the Integrity Institute. Thanks again for being a part of the show.
Thanks, Di.